Blog Talk Radio.
Oh, it's time to get real. Oh, yeah. It's a new experience. Reality, Spirituality. Yeah, keep your ears open for this one, man. Reality, Spirituality. You got a question for RLN? Reality, Spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get some answers, baby. Reality, Spirituality. Oh, now we get real. Reality, Spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get down. Reality, Spirituality. Yeah, you're gonna feel good now. Real good. Now, that's what I'm talking about. Time to get real.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Reality Spirituality. I'm your host, Rebecca L. Norrington, and thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with your friends the show. Thank you for the support and the emails and always engaging. I love the engagement of my audience and the great questions that I get. And the last couple of shows, we're going to tie in the last two shows to this show because it is the topic of the ego is a never-ending topic. And as we've talked about countless of times, that the reason and the purpose for the ego is to make me feel bad for as long as possible, in as many moments as possible. And so now that we know the intention, the purpose, the job of the ego is to make me feel bad, now I know what to do, what to practice to combat that. But before I go on in today's topic of why the ego insists on comparing moments, let me just introduce myself to the people who have never heard of me before. I find it fascinating when I meet new people and I say, do you know who I am, don't you? I am the world's only happiness specialist, and what that means is I share strategies and what I've learned in tools and behavior, what I've learned what to practice that adds to happiness and what to eliminate that will subtract from your happiness. It's really very simple. Happiness, there is a formula to happiness, and the formula has one component, one element, and we all know what that element is. That element is the person in the mirror. That element is you. You have the power. You have the responsibility. It is your job. Your happiness is your job and your job alone. And it has nothing to do with what happens in the outside world. It has nothing to do with what anybody does to you or says to you, or how you're feeling, or maybe if your back is bothering you today, or maybe your arthritis is acting up. It has nothing to do with that. What I'm talking about, this happiness, is the same as feeling peace, feeling at ease, feeling peace in mind. Let me give you my definition of happiness. The definition is to be able to vibrate and feel peace, regardless of what happens to you and regardless of what doesn't happen. Happiness is the ability to be at peace, regardless of what happens and regardless of what doesn't happen. The ability to be at peace, make decisions, make thoughts. When I say make decisions, your decisions is based on what is going to bring you more peace. That's how somebody that is peaceful and internalizes and identifies with happiness is the person that all roads lead to peace. One of students writes on their homework. They said, I asked the question, what's subtracting from your happiness? And the answer was, well, this was years ago. The answer was my sister. And in reality, if you're happy and if you're connected and your identity is peace, I don't care if it's your sister, your twin sister, your mother, your aunt, your cousin from Timbuktu. When you are identified, when you are rooted in peace, there is nothing that can shake that. There is nothing that can shake you from your foundation or pull up your roots. Once you are deeply rooted, you look out there at some of those huge trees, the trees that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. You're not going to be able to pull those roots up. So when I talk about being rooted in, I'm talking about what do you practice on a daily basis? What do you practice in any moment when you are met with the challenges of life? What do you practice? And what determines what you practice will determine your next moments. When we talk about happiness, I get a lot of pushback from that word happiness. But let me just share really quickly that my definition of happiness, you might as well throw in the same word. You can throw in the word God. You can throw in the word source, higher power, energy, all of it, source energy, whatever you want to call it. I use the term universe, so that's just my term of preference, even though all preferences subtract from happiness. But anywho, I can plug in any of those terms and it's still going to have the same meaning, which reminds me of just another topic about if you have any buttons that you know get pushed, I don't care what it is, from somebody's pronouncing your name wrong to maybe you have a cause that you are passionate about, whatever it is, whatever your button is, that you know what I'm talking about. When your button gets pushed and you're bothered, you're instantly bothered. It's automatic. There's just a bam, slap to the head. Oh, I'm irritated instantly. Those kind of buttons. Well, if you have any of those buttons, it's your responsibility not to tell anybody not to practice pushing your buttons, but it's up to you. It's your responsibility to remove your buttons, and eliminate buttons. Now you know why not a lot of people are down with practicing, because the practice comes to individual responsibility. It's nobody else's work but yours. It's nobody else's job. It's nobody else's responsibility but yours. And that's where I lose people. That's where I lose my audience, because there is an epidemic out there of blaming. Words are said. Now my feelings are hurt. Words are said. Action is taken, and now I'm offended. No, if your feelings are hurt or you're offended, then it's up to you to get to rise to a place of growth, rise to a place of personal growth where you can't be offended, where nothing anyone says or does offends you or affects you. It's up to you to grow to that place, that state. And it is a state of mind. It is a state of being. It's an identity. And when you identify with peace, that's all you can create, and that's all you are. That's all you do. Okay, let's get to today's topic, because this topic, as most of them, comes from a personal need. And the topic is comparing moments, and why the ego insists on comparing moments. Oh, and it is a request, and the ego is insistent. It insists that we compare moments. Does anybody have any idea why the ego just thrives on, just has its passionate about us comparing our moments? Not only does the ego want us to compare our moments, the ego wants us to attach ourselves to the feelings of past moments and comparing the feelings of this moment to that moment. And why is that moment doesn't feel as good as this moment? So here we go. Let me be really specific here. This was my challenge. this was one of my challenges. And as you know, being a happiness specialist, when I say I walk it, I mean I walk it. And so one of my challenges was, just very briefly, if you listen to the show, you know I live in Oregon, and I live in the middle of a forest, and I'm surrounded by trees. Well, I distinctly and specifically remember when I was younger traveling and saying to myself, when I get to be older, when I retire, I want to live in a forest. And I just had that in the back of my mind, parents' vacations every year to Yosemite. I have this thing about forest and trees and rivers running through it. It's just always been a vibe of mine. And so here I am, decades later, living in the middle of the forest. And I remember when I first saw this place, and I didn't even go inside the house. I just stayed outside looking at the creek, looking at the trees surrounding. I mean, the beauty of it all, the nature of it all. Oh, it was breathtaking. I remember standing there and just looking around, smelling the air and cheering up and just saying, yes, yes, universe, yes. I found my home. Yes, it's here. This is it. This home was built for me. Oh, this is my final resting place. Oh, my dreams of living in a forest. I remember saying, I want to look out every window and see trees. And every window that I have here, all I see are trees. And on the bottom, on the floor that's closest to on the ground level, is just windows, trees. And I remember when I first came and I first started living here and just being in awe and staring out into the trees and just being in awe in the trees and just feeling the moment. But you know what? You know what, audience? You know what? That feeling was never as powerful or never as overwhelming or never as gasp as the first time. Never. What we're going to talk about today are those moments that feel so new, that are so extraordinary. You know what I'm talking about, those moments that can knock us off our feet, those moments that are breathtaking, those kind of moments. But that feeling, that passion, that overwhelmingness, if that's a word, doesn't last. Why don't I feel that grand, that big, passionate, why am I not crying every time I look out like I did during the first time I was here and living here? The story is taking things for granted. Oh, what if you lived at the beach and every day you went to look at the sunset, but then after, 6 months of looking at the sunset, maybe one of those times, it didn't look as beautiful, or you're not as engaged, or you're looking at your phone and the sunset, or in other words, that moment has passed, and why can't I feel like that again? And why doesn't this moment evoke those same feelings that I had, like I had in the beginning? Am I making my point? I have 3 people in the queue, and nobody wants to join the show. That's okay. So, but the point is this. The point is, what is this? Oh, no. Uh-oh. Oh, no. You know what? Oh, shoot. I think the show might be over in 22 seconds, and that is not my intent. Oh, man, did I set that wrong? Episode info. know. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I don't even know if this is, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did not set the time right. I did not set the time right, and I don't know if this is still recording. Wow! Oh my goodness. I was so excited about doing the show. So hold on a second. Let me see if this is still recording, and I can't tell. I don't think it's still recording. Well, if you're listening to this show and I cut it off after 15 minutes. I did not schedule the show for the length of time that I wanted to. So, see, that's what happens. Life happens. Shows happen, shows are scheduled correctly, and shows are scheduled incorrectly. I'm wondering if this is still recording, though. You know what? I'm going to keep talking like it's still recording. And if it's not, then we'll deal with that next week. So back to what I was saying about comparing the moments and why this moment doesn't feel like the original moment, and what is that about? What is that? Well, if you listen to the first two shows prior to this, the first show was talking about elevating beyond your thoughts, how you start to witness the thoughts when you realize that entity, that critical voice, whatever you call it, the critical voice, the ego, when you realize that voice has no other purpose other than to make you feel bad about yourself and about your life as many times as possible. From the name calling to you didn't get enough done, you're lazy, you're unproductive, whatever you want to do, you know that voice that I'm talking about. So it's an elevating beyond that voice, beyond those thoughts, and that comes from when you practice witnessing those voices, witnessing that voice, witnessing those thoughts, as opposed to being in them or identifying with them, because you are not your thoughts. Now, the other show was the evolution of the ego, which the show before this talked about the beginning of the ego and how the ego evolved from just protecting us from danger and adapting. So the purpose of the ego was protect and adapt, so we can adapt to our surroundings back in the caveman days. But now the ego is taken over to wanting to be in charge, wanting to make decisions. But the problem comes from wanting to make decisions, and the guidance from the ego is all based on a programming, is all based on an untruth. It's all based on the programming of man. So when you know that, now we can begin to take on the ego. And again, this isn't taking on the ego. This is a big battle, and I have to prevail. No, this is more of I recognize what is going on here, and I recognize that the ego does have as much power as I am willing to give it. So the ego evolved from just protection to now getting all involved in our lives. And the ego is responsible for all of these, all having judgments, comparing, noticing what other people are doing, talking about what other people are doing, having expectations, giving power to words, having attachments, having preferences, trying to control anyone or anything outside of self, all taking anything personally, worrying. All that are products of the ego. And so when you know that they're products of the ego, now we can we can hone into, and we can start dissecting, and we can start eliminating and breaking through all of this power that the ego has. And let me say, the ego is so tricky and is a master of disguises, especially coming around Halloween, is a master of disguises. So even the intent of having good intentions, all agendas, if you have an agenda with someone, if you have an agenda, you want something from them, that is going to eventually subtract from your happiness. All agendas subtract from happiness. It is a life of inspiration in every moment, but this agenda, I have an agenda, even if it's an agenda because I think let's see, what can I say? I want what's best for the other person, and I know what's best for someone else. So let's go back to the ego and comparing the moments. One of the reasons why the ego loves to compare the moments is because that's just another way. I sure do hope this is being recorded. That's just another way for the ego to get its grips all inside of your blood system. In other words, so if I'm looking at this place for the first time and I have all of these emotions that seem to last at least an hour of overwhelmment and crying and the moment and the beginning and all of this, to the point where, okay, I'm looking out, I see trees, oh, ho, hum. So I started asking, and again, when you get stuck, when you're in a position where you just don't have answers, just ask the universe how. How, universe, how can I appreciate and feel that passion in every moment? And the answer that I received back was, the comparing moments from the past and bringing a moment from the past that felt a certain way into my future, into my present, bringing past moments that I'm comparing into my present moment, and now I'm comparing how I felt in the past with how I feel in the present moment. Why did I have these overwhelming feelings of grandeur and awe and just my whole body is chilling up, and now I just look at the trees like I've seen them for the last thousands of years. Well, that is all what the ego does. Now you have an insight, more of an insight of what the ego does. The ego is responsible and thinks that there is value in comparing moments and comparing how you feel in each moment, and then comparing the passion that you feel in this moment. And if you don't have that same passion as you did in the prior moments, then there's something wrong. There's something off. And now the stories start. And the stories start with, oh, I'm not grateful for where I am. Oh, it's just the forest is just not enough. It's just not enough. The truth is, the feeling, the passion, the vibes, the good feeling vibes didn't come from the forest in the first place. Didn't come from being outside in nature in the first place. The stories behind the feeling. The feelings are that feeling of overwhelmment where your whole body gets, is that a word, overwhelmment? Where your whole body chills up and you feel like it's just an overwhelming of being connected to the universe, and tears might happen and you might drop to your knees, that kind of feeling. And now I'm in the same spot 6 months ago and I don't have that feeling. What's going on, universe? Oh, now I'm taking my surroundings for granted. Now, can you see how I'm feeling bad and criticizing self? Oh, that's because you're not grateful enough. The only reason why you don't have those passionate feelings is because lack of gratitude. The truth is the ego has invested in comparing moments and invested in the stories behind comparing the moments and wanting those moments, those past moments, to feel like future moments, having expectation. So you see how we're talked about forever about comparing, having expectations in the moments. Is the beginning, is the cause, is the root of the issue, is the root of the challenge. But once we know and once we see how the ego operates and what the ego does to keep us in a state of dissatisfaction, it's really an empowering. I see what I did wrong. 15 minutes. It's really an empowering place to be. When you recognize, the reason why I don't feel a certain way is because number one, I'm bringing the past into my present. Number two, I'm comparing moments. Number three, I'm not in the present. All of those are reasons why the ego loves us to and encourages us to and instructs us to compare our past moments. Not only compare them, but drag them into our present moment and compare them. And then have expectations of the same feelings I felt 6 months ago to feel those same feelings in my present moment. You see how tricky the ego is and how this living consciously and living aware is the key to all peace, all internal peace, is just being conscious and aware of all of the tricks of the trade of the ego. And again, comparing yourselves to others, comparing yourselves to other people, comparing your life to other people's lives, comparing your moments, your past moments, to your future moments, and bringing your past moments and having expectations that those past moments should feel like a future moment. I don't know about you, but that was huge for me. It was an eye-opener of all comparisons, and there's eye-opener if there is growth and if there is expansion in the universe, and we know that the universe is always growing and always expanding, then of course my feelings for, or my vibration of, or my passion of, my passionate feelings back in the day are going to feel different in another moment. Everything is different. There's nothing that stays the same. Even if you look at a tree out, and I'm looking at the trees right now, even if you look at a tree outside, in another half hour, that tree is going to be different. So the comparing the moments and wishing or wanting or have expectations, and especially the good feelings. Oh, gee, the good feelings where you're walking on water and you're shaking and your body is filled with the universe and you're, woo, woo, you're overwhelmed, woo, all those kind of moments. Well, it's about living each moment, appreciating each moment, accepting each moment, and then it's literally, figuratively, next moment. And any present moment is not going to feel like a past moment. It's impossible. And so the comparing of last moments, the expectations of wanting a past moment to feel like a present moment, it's impossible. Just like all days are different. And we are all as different as our fingerprints. So we're all different. So expecting, dragging past moments into the present, or wanting a past moment to feel like, wanting a present moment to feel like a past moment, that happens too when you are with someone and you meet somebody for the first time. You know, those sparks fly. Oh, that initial attraction. Oh, walking on water. Everybody's happy. Oh, this is gorgeous. Oh, I love him. Oh, and then 5 years into it, oh my God, I hate their guts. Now, of course, that's an extreme example, but the issue is, again, it's that present moment and knowing that each moment is going to be different. So comparing the present moments, dragging the past moments into your present, all of that comparison subtracts from your happiness, subtracts from your peace. And let me just throw this out really quick. I don't know if this is getting recorded or not. Let me just throw this out about holiday season is coming up and the programming of holidays and the reasons why people get depressed. This is going to have to be a whole topic. But the reason why we get depressed, there is depression and people feel bad around holidays is just for one reason. And that's the reason is because of the programming. The programming that we all receive about what a holiday is supposed to look like, the expectations of holidays. Spending time alone during a holiday, where is that celebrated? But in reality, what a great time to be alone where everybody's doing something different. You can shop, you can go to stores, you can go to the airport, and nobody's around. It's the best. That's my favorite time to travel is on a holiday. But anyway, I digress. Reality Spirituality, thank you for listening. Reality Spirituality is heard every Sunday. Yes, I am available for retreats, for seminars, for talks. Just contact me at info@RebeccaNorrington.com. My website is RebeccaNorrington.com. My email is info@RebeccaNorrington.com. Follow me on Twitter at RLNorrington, Instagram handle Reality Spirituality. I have a few videos on YouTube. My first book, Reality Spirituality, The Truth About Happiness, can be purchased on Amazon. And my second book, Program for Unhappiness, is going to be out sometime one of these days. I promise, maybe it'll be out. I'm feeling it. I'm about 80% finished. Okay, and until next time, my dear audience, I want you to remember who you are. You are a physical extension of the universe. You're always evolving. You're always changing. You're always changing. These moments are different. Comparing your moments, comparing yourself to anyone else, to anything else, on dragging that past moment into your present moment, always subtracts from happiness. Remember, you cannot have a happy ending to an unhappy journey. It is about the journey. It is about living consciously, being aware, staying aware, making decisions, making choices in every single moment, choosing peace over drama. Woo! And until next week, have a conscious week. You've been listening to Reality Spirituality.
Yeah, oh, it's time to get real. Oh, yeah. It's the new experience. Reality Spirituality. Yeah, keep your ears open for this one, man. Reality Spirituality. You got a question for RLN? Reality Spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get some answers, baby. Reality Spirituality. Oh, now we getting real. Getting real. Reality Spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get down. Reality Spirituality.